The first time I saw the Northern Lights, it was as if the sky itself had come alive. We were deep in the Boundary Waters, 5 of us, canoes drawn up on a small island, fire crackling low and steady. The day had been one of those still, glassy ones, when the water mirrored the clouds perfectly, and the loons called like echoes from another world. We'd finished dinner, trout roasted on cedar planks, and were just leaning back against our packs, tired in that good, honest way you only feel after paddling all day. The night had settled into quiet, except for the soft lap of water against rock and the faint hiss of our fire. Then, someone, I think it was Cal, looked up and said, real soft, "Boys, look at that." At first, I thought it was just a cloud catching moonlight, but then it moved. Slow, deliberate. A curtain of green silk unfurling across the stars. We all turned, every word dying in our throats. The aurora shimmered from one horizon to the other, rippling in ribbons of jade, then violet, then a faint pulse of red. The stars themselves seemed to dim, as if the heavens were making room for something older, more powerful. No one spoke for a long while. Even the fire seemed to quiet down, the wood sighing more than popping. The air was cold enough to see our breath, but none of us moved to fetch jackets or stir the coals. There was a strange hum to it. Not sound exactly, more like a vibration that passed through your chest. When you looked up long enough, I remember feeling suddenly aware of everything around me. The damp moss beneath my boots, the slow heartbeat of the earth, the deep, living stillness of the wilderness that had been there for ages before us and would remain long after we were gone. The lights brightened, shifting faster now, like unseen hands were painting the sky in slow, graceful strokes. Cal let out a low whistle, almost reverent. "I don't think I've ever seen anything like that," he murmured, and his voice cracked just enough to betray how much it moved him. Hannah, who was usually the chatterbox of the group, had tears in her eyes. She didn't say a thing, just reached for her mug of cocoa and held it close, her face glowing green and gold under that heavenly dance. I couldn't help thinking how small we looked, our tiny campfire a flicker beneath an ocean of light. All our stories, our laughter, our little worries, they felt so small too. I thought about the voyagers who once paddled these same waters under the same sky, about ancient hunters warming their hands by fires like ours, watching the same aurora sweep above them. It hit me then how we're all just passing through. Different centuries, same stars. Somewhere behind us, an owl hooted from the pines, and another answered from far across the lake. Their calls wove into the hum of the lights, into the rhythm of the water against stone. None of us wanted to break the spell. We just sat there, fire dying slow, faces turned upward, eyes wide open, humbled beneath the pulse of a living sky. Hours seemed to pass, though none of us checked a watch. Time had dissolved into the rhythm of colour, bands of light rising and falling like slow breaths from the heavens. Every so often, a faint crackle drifted through the stillness, like static in the air, though whether it was real or just the sound of our own awe, I couldn't tell. I remember the feeling of the granite under me, cool and solid, grounding me while the sky danced and shifted above. I'd never felt so small and so alive at once. Hannah finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's like the world's awake and we're just now noticing." No one answered, but I think we all understood exactly what she meant. Cal reached into the coals and stirred them absently, sparks lifting upward, catching in the glow before fading to nothing. The others drifted into their own silences, each of us sitting with our own thoughts, the firelight painting our faces gold while the aurora washed us in green. Eventually, the lights intensified, as if the sky had found a new rhythm. The green deepened into emerald waves, then broke into streaks of violet that shimmered like silk torn by the wind. It was hard not to imagine some spirit up there, something vast and unseen, reminding us how temporary we were. I thought of my grandfather then, who'd spent his youth fishing these lakes, who used to tell me stories about the dancing lights and how they were the spirits of old travellers guiding lost souls home. I'd never known whether he meant it as a myth or a comfort, but sitting there, I felt both. When I looked around, the others were lying on their backs now, heads tilted to the stars. No tents, no sleeping bags, just jackets, the cold, and the heavens above. I lay down too, the stone pressing into my shoulders, the fire crackling softly beside me. The aurora rippled again, brighter than before. And, for a fleeting moment, I thought it reached down toward us, touching the world before retreating skyward. None of us said another word that night. We stayed until the lights dimmed into faint wisps, until the blackness of the northern sky returned and the stars regained their steady shine. Then, without deciding to, we banked the fire and crawled into our tents. Sleep didn't come easy, not because of discomfort, but because part of me wanted to keep my eyes open, afraid I might miss another flicker of that eternal, silent dance. The morning came quietly, as if the forest itself were reluctant to wake after what it had witnessed. Mist hung low across the lake, turning everything soft and silver. The air was cool enough that every breath showed white in front of me, and the dew on the moss sparkled like tiny shards of glass. I pushed out of my tent, half expecting the world to look different somehow, changed by that sky from the night before. Maybe it was just my own eyes that had changed. Cal was already up, crouched by the fire pit, coaxing life into the embers with slow, practiced breaths. He didn't speak at first, just handed me a tin mug of coffee, black and steaming. "Thought I dreamed it," he said finally. "But then I remembered we all dreamed it together." I smiled, though there wasn't much to say to that. The others emerged one by one, sleepy, quiet, smiling the kind of smiles that come when you've seen something words can't really hold. Across the lake, the surface was perfectly still, not a ripple. The trees on the far bank stood reflected so clearly it looked like a second forest turned upside down beneath the water. Somewhere, a loon called, long and low, and the sound carried across the mist like a memory from another time. We all turned to listen. The echo lingered, then faded back into the silence. And it struck me again how vast and old this place felt. It wasn't made for people like us. It tolerated us. We were visitors, no more permanent than the smoke curling from our fire. We packed slowly that morning. No rush. The sun began to burn through the fog, revealing the smooth granite and the faint shimmer of water drops on our canoes. Every motion felt deliberate. Folding tarps, tightening straps, cinching packs. The usual chatter was gone. Instead, there was a shared quiet, a kind of reverence. When we finally pushed off, the canoes glided through water like glass, the ripples widening gently until they disappeared into the horizon. Hannah trailed her fingers in the lake as we paddled, drawing small arcs that broke the mirrored sky. "I keep thinking," she said, "how that light, those colours, were happening long before we were born. and they'll keep on after we're gone." Her voice was steady, but there was something soft in it, like she was trying to hold on to a feeling she couldn't quite name. I nodded, though I didn't try to add anything. The truth of it hung in the cool morning air, as simple and immense as the wilderness itself. We followed the narrow waterway that wound between the islands, paddles dipping in unison, each stroke slicing through the mirrored surface with quiet precision. The rhythm became almost meditative. Dip, pull, lift, drip, each sound folding into the next, until it was impossible to tell whose paddle made which ripple. The forest flanked us on both sides, towering pines and birch, shimmering with the first hints of morning gold. Every so often, a fish would break the surface with a soft splash, sending rings across the reflection of the sky. The conversation stayed light, mostly about breakfast, the map, where to stop next. But underneath it, I could feel that same unspoken awe from the night before. It was as if we were all still carrying the echo of the lights inside us, like coals glowing under ash. The world felt larger now, fuller somehow, and we felt smaller in the right kind of way. By mid-morning, we reached a stretch of open water. The wind picked up, scattering the mist and revealing a wide view of distant hills still streaked with snow. I set my paddle across my knees and let the canoe drift. From that vantage point, the world seemed endless. The same sky that had been alive with colour a few hours ago now stretched pale blue and quiet above us, innocent of the wonder it had shown. It struck me how quickly awe can fade into routine, how easy it is to forget the miracle when daylight returns. Cal noticed it too. "Hard to believe it's the same sky," he said. "You'd never know what it was capable of." I looked at him, at the faint green reflection still painted in the sheen of the water where the light lingered like a memory. "Maybe it's better that way," I said. "If it looked like that all the time, maybe we'd stop seeing it for what it is." He nodded, smiling. "Yeah, guess we need the dark to see the beauty." For a while, we just drifted, the wind pushing us gently toward the next island. Pine needles floated in the water, and the air smelled faintly of resin and sun-warmed bark. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and listened to the steady rhythm of the waves lapping at the hull. Beneath it all was that same deep stillness I'd felt the night before, the kind that makes you realise how much noise fills ordinary life. Out here, every sound felt earned, every silence sacred. When I opened my eyes again, a bald eagle was gliding high above, its wings outstretched, moving with effortless grace. None of us spoke. We just watched it circle, small against the endless blue. That afternoon, we made camp on another small island, a sloping patch of pine and granite with a clear view to the north. It felt right to stop there, though we still had daylight left. The breeze was steady, carrying the scent of cedar and lake water. We moved slower now, almost reluctant to break the stillness with our motions. Setting up tents, gathering driftwood, boiling water, it all felt like part of a quiet ritual rather than a routine. When the sun began to set, the sky turned a soft amber that melted into violet at the edges. We sat on the rocks, watching the last light fade. No one said it out loud, but I think each of us was hoping the aurora might return. It didn't, at least not that night. But somehow that didn't matter. The memory of it was enough. A living thing we'd carry with us long after the gear was packed away and the canoes strapped to the car. As darkness settled, the stars came out, sharp and clean. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of frost. I lay back on the smooth rock, the warmth of the day still clinging to it, and listened to the sounds of the island. The faint rustle of leaves, the soft tap of water against the shore, the occasional snap from the dying fire. There was peace in that simplicity, a kind of knowing that didn't need words. Cal broke the silence after a while. "You ever think," he said, "about how everything we do, our jobs, our worries, all that stuff, it just disappears out here?" I nodded. "Yeah, out here we're just guests. The land doesn't care who we are, it just keeps being." He smiled, poked at the embers with a stick and said, "Maybe that's the point." The firelight flickered against our faces, and behind it, the vast dark of the wilderness pressed close, not menacing, but eternal. I felt it then, the humbling truth of it all. We were small, yes, but we were part of something infinite. The same wind that brushed the pine needles also moved the stars. The same light that danced in the heavens still shimmered somewhere deep inside each of us. Later, when the fire burned down to coals, we turned in one by one. I listened to the lake whispering against the rocks, the world breathing slow and steady. Before sleep took me, I looked up through the open flap of my tent and saw a faint ribbon of green tracing the northern edge of the sky. Distant, delicate, fading. It was enough. The world was vast, and we were small. But for that one brief time, we belonged completely within it.